Hello everyone, welcome to the BBC Live Facebook news stream from Lebanon. We've been here for the last couple of days following the new UNHCR supporter Mika, the UN refugee agency, the UNHCR. Mika's been working out what's been going on with regards to the refugee situation here and all the people who've made their way over to live in Lebanon from Syria, the fallout from the massive war there that's been going on for over 5 years now, or we're coming up on 5 years, sorry. Around 4 million refugees live around the region, but 1 million of them have made it into Lebanon. That's a huge number for a country this size. This morning we're hearing that Europe has accepted 1 million refugees. Well, 1 million refugees have made their way into Europe. Little context for you, that's about 50 countries. Something like 750 million people live in Europe. In Lebanon, there are only 4 million people, so 1 in 4 people in this country is a refugee. That's a bit of context for you on just the scale of the issue here. But we want to hear from the man himself, from Mika. Thanks a lot for being here.
It's a pleasure.
So I suppose first up, why did you decide to get involved?
For a whole variety of reasons, and it was not a decision that I took lightly. It was something that took a long time to establish. I started discussions with the UNHCR about 2 years ago. I've been reading about what's been happening. I've been reading about the crisis that was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I was born in Beirut. At about 1.5 years, we were evacuated, my whole family. We ended up in Cyprus, and then we grew up, and then we moved to Paris, where I lived for about 7 years before going to London. So I have a link with this country. My mother is Lebanese, Syrian. My grandfather was from Damascus. It was something that personally I kind of connected to, and I was observing it from the beginning of the war and the beginning of the fighting in Syria. I thought that it would get better. I know that sounds completely naive now when we say that, in considering what's been happening over the past few years, but I really did. Every year that the numbers just got to another high, I thought that it would get better. It comes to a certain point when you sit there thinking, I mean, look at the scale of the crisis. There are so many displaced people as a result of the fighting in Syria, and there are no signs right now, right at this moment, that it's going to get any better next year. The borders are closed. There are 1.1 million people estimated from Syria in Lebanon right now. There are millions more that are displaced within Syria. There are also millions that are in other places like Turkey. The strain on such a small country has been massive, and I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I wanted to humanize something that I almost had become cold to. I find that this is one of the biggest problems of our generation, and in not just with the Syrian crisis, but displaced people in general, because there are 60 million, like you said, around the world. But I wanted to humanize these statistics. I wanted to open my eyes and my heart to what I've almost become cold to, with all the atrocities that are reported on a daily basis, with all the statistics and the figures that we see. I wanted to see with my own eyes. I was given the opportunity, which I consider to be a massive privilege, for that door to be opened by the UNHCR and to let me in, and I've had 2 of the most incredible days of my entire life.
Because one of the days you spent was actually in a place like this. I just want to give you a bit of a heads up, guys, and we're actually getting a lot of interest now from all around the world. Hello, we've seen from Taipei, Singapore,
Malaysia,
Brazil,
from India,
Malaysia,
from England
as
and
well.
Italy and France, everywhere.
Where we are now, just to keep you all in the loop, is the UN Refugee Agency's centre, one of the 4 centres they have in this country, the UNHCR centre in Beirut, and it's a place where they process applications for refugee status. That actually stopped in January, so a lot of the people who are here are actually coming up for follow-up appointments. Centres like this see around 800 people a day, and a little later on I'll give you a little bit of a walk around and we'll see a little bit more about what that's about. But keep your questions coming in. We're always really keen to hear about the refugee crisis, but also about what Mika's been up to. We've been with you for the last couple of days.
Yes, you have. You've kind of shared this experience with me.
What's hit you? What's really...
I mean, it's life. I mean, I feel personally like we've confronted so many life in a way. It's just kind of, it's been interesting, because when you see people's situations, and we're going to talk about it in different ways as well, but when you see this crisis with your own eyes, it becomes really real, and you don't have time to get sad. You have to stay within pragmatism. Even if you'd see situations that would make you cry, there's no time and there's no respect in crying. I mean, when you're facing these people, you don't want to be sad in front of them.
Have you got
you want to tell their story.
Is there a moment that grabbed you? Is there something which really because we've been meeting, because you will have seen a lot of our reporting over the last couple of days on Snapchat, on Facebook, on Twitter. You'll also see on BBC World today, if you guys tune in, you'll see the piece that we made with Mika and with some of the refugees here. We met a family, didn't we, that lived in that chicken farm.
Well, yeah, we met. Okay, so I think it's really important to describe to people what the life of a refugee is like. So you arrive. Let's say that it was 3 years ago. I'm going to actually give this family as a case study. They came from Syria. They left Syria about 4.5 years ago. They said that their situation, it's a mother and a father and their 5 children, and they used to work the land, and they used to be kind of cottage farmers. I think is the best way to describe what they were doing. They arrived in Lebanon, which was the closest place for them, the most accessible place for them to run away from fighting. Their local community, their daily lives, everything that they had built was basically destroyed, and they had to get away. And it was a decision that they made within the space of a couple of hours. They left with only the clothes that they were wearing and a bag that the mother was able to take with her, and nothing more. There were no cash provisions prepared. They ended up sleeping and hiding because they were afraid, because they were running away, in another family member's house. And the next day they waited, they got the documents printed, and they crossed the border into Lebanon. From there they ended up at the reception center in Tripoli, where they registered with the UNHCR, and they were given a full profile. So the UNHCR take as much information as they can, including iris scans, and then they were told to find themselves a place to live. This is the reality. You have to find a place to live. What they found was a destroyed, disused chicken factory without any walls, without a stable roof, without windows, with rubble everywhere, with living conditions that I've barely seen before. No toilets, no running water, no electricity, and they made that their home. And
they do that because here in Lebanon, refugees cannot set up camps.
Absolutely,
right?
there are no official
Which, by the way,
refugee
guys, is what's
camps.
going on behind us now. A lot of people need the UNHCR to help them out. We had Kevin who was asking a question about what's going on behind us. I'll show you that in a second. It's people turning up here to get the help they need to live here, because unlike other countries around the region, the UNHCR is unable to set up formal camps. People just have to make do with what they can, like this family.
The informal settlements is the way that they're calling them. And I mean, you've got people that are living in tents, you've got people those tents have evolved over the past few years into shacks with waterproofing, with a lot of materials that have been supplied by UNHCR. You've got people living in abandoned apartments, you've got people living in abandoned factories. This family in the chicken factory are renting 2 rooms. That's the most important thing to say. Within these conditions, without anything that we would consider needed in order to live in a place, they're still paying rent. This rent is $150 a month with $50 of expenses. They receive aid from the UNHCR of $175 per month. That doesn't even cover the rent for the place that they're, what we would consider squatting in a way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even include food. The UNHCR is absolutely vital. The first year they lived there, they hit winter, and that was a complete nightmare for them. And it's just you don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids, one of them was fully deaf, and the other one, the 17-year-old, was half deaf. The one thing I'll say in terms of rounding up that case study, when I asked them what their hopes were, they wanted to go home. When I asked them what their technique was when the boys wake up every day and they have nothing to do, and when the father is unable to get work because he doesn't have residency, so they're strapped completely. They're in a vicious cycle of a holding pattern in a way, in conditions way below the poverty line. All they said was they wanted to survive. They needed to survive. They needed to stay alive just enough so that when the door opens for them to go back home and to rebuild their lives, they will be still alive and able to do so as an intact family.
What we're going to do now, guys, is a lot of you are asking. We've got people messaging from places like Japan, Indonesia, India. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us from Rome. What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on behind us. So if you just wouldn't mind for 2 seconds, we're just going to unplug Mika just for a sec. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about what this place is like, because so as I said, there are 4 of these around the country, and I'm actually just going to turn the camera around so you can just what we're seeing. So people come in to this centre behind us. This is a walk-in centre, so people can come in to ask for the help that they need. As we were saying, refugees in this country are not entitled to stay in camps. They also can't new refugees can't come to register. But what they can do is come here for the help they need. So they can come to get legal assistance. They can come to get social help. A lot of refugees have an issue when it comes to filing residency permits. So there's all sorts of things that the UNHCR can do to try to help them to get on with their day. So people will wait here, they'll line up in the queues here, and they have to take, there's a lot of paperwork. Being a refugee involves a lot of paperwork, even iris scans, which has come back down now to where we were sitting here with Mika. So that's where I'm just going to plug us back in down here, and we'll be back with Mika just in 30 seconds. I'll plug that back in.
And I'm back.
And he's back. So, but you yourself, I mean, as part of this is it's about you a little bit, isn't it? Because you actually had to leave this country during a war.
Well, you know, I think anyone who's been displaced by war. I mean, my family was lucky enough to be evacuated when things got really hard, because lots of people who chose as well, and who weren't able to, who also chose not to leave Beirut in Lebanon. I was born in 1983, and then I grew up in a kind of community of Lebanese in France for those 7 years. It was like a little bubble of Lebanon. I mean, I was surrounded by Arabic. I was surrounded by everything from the rugs to the food, and having that life where you're kind of in this kind of, you know, your culture's kind of in suspension is something that you can never really get rid of. I will say though that after that I was educated in the UK. I went to university in the UK, and you can feel proud of the country that you're living in and that you've been brought up in, like me in the UK and also in France, and still love the idea of where you come from. The two things can kind of live together.
But this country is facing a huge crisis, and I'm just going to recap on what we had earlier today. Europe now understands that 1 million refugees have made their way into Europe, but it's helpful for us to put that into context. This country, Lebanon, is a country of 4 million people. It alone has taken over 1 million people. That means that 25% of this country is a refugee, which is an enormous situation, enormous problem for the Lebanese to handle. And that is why the UNHCR is here in order to try to relieve some of that burden. But there are 4.3 million all around the region, and so many of them here in Lebanon.
And so many also in Turkey,
yeah.
It's important to say.
Yeah.
And you know, this isn't something that's exclusive to Lebanon, as we all know. It's just the relative scale of it. And also, because of my heritage, this was a place where it felt like a natural thing to kind of try and tell some stories in a very apolitical way. I think that's very important.
I think the thing that's hit me actually in the last couple of days is the kids.
The kids,
isn't it?
a lot
because
of kids.
Over half of all refugees are children.
Women and children.
Women and children, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of them we're in this reception centre. Basically, I mean, it's nearly a majority of women and children.
It's over half. I mean, I would say 2/3 are women and children.
And that's something that's presumably hit you.
Oh, I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, when you're this many years into the conflict in Syria, and the strain on these children and the strain on these families is huge. But you have to think about all the arrested development as well, because education is a massive issue. The Prime Minister of Italy has just arrived. Actually, he just landed this morning, Matteo Renzi, and he's visiting here. And I think he might be visiting as well some education institutions, because that is a major issue. How do you get all these people to go to school, to also to be integrated without too much segregation within an educational system that is under massive strain already in Lebanon. But you know, the thing that I will say is that not just has the children been something that's really struck me, but I guess the idea that refugees and the refugees that I've come across and that we have come across together are from all over the world, and that every single type of person. I mean, I've met farmers, I've met doctors, And these are all the same people that have to go through the same counselling process, the same asking for help processes, and the same reception centre like this one behind us from the UNHCR. They're all going through the same process. I mean, I met a man who had his own mini-mart. I've met a young guy who had his own kind of garage and body shop repair. And I've also met some extraordinary cases.
Yeah.
I saw one of your pieces, James, on the BBC about a year ago, and you were telling the story of LGBTI people and the things that they had been suffering, and the fact that they were sheltering themselves in Lebanon, and the lives that they were trying to live, and what was up against them. And I was really moved by it. And when I planned this trip, I made a specific point of trying to tell the stories as well and get to know some of the stories of the people in the LGBTI community. I met a youth group, and I cannot explain to you what it was like. I met about 20 of them, and they were all within the ages of about 20 to 25. These are people who have not only been thrown out by their families, threatened by their families and friends, segregated at school, but they are also being segregated and discriminated by society, both at home and also here. And also within the context of a conflict,
Yeah.
that without a community group like the one they have, they would truly be alone.
I mean, it's very true. That demographic, the LGBTI demographic in amongst the refugee community, is severely alone. A lot of these people who are coming to places like this now to get help from the UNHCR, their situation is miserable, but a lot of them will have family and friends that people, LGBTI people, just don't have that. I do actually just want to bring in some more comments, because we're getting people from all over the world. Swathi from Nepal, Chandi says hi from India. Remember guys, you can send in more questions, please do, and remember to use our hashtag #MyRefugeeStory, which you can also find all our other bits and pieces all over, as I say, Twitter, Snapchat, and here on Facebook as well. There's a great question from Derek in the UK who says he's worried that more refugees coming over to Europe is going to put a strain on services, and a strain particularly on services in the UK. We had that million refugees coming over to Europe now. The UK has decided to work with the UNHCR and other Western European countries and America to resettle people from places like Lebanon in places like the UK. So what would you say about that, the strain on services? Because we've certainly seen a big strain on services here in Lebanon, haven't we?
Absolutely. I mean, but you know, you have to understand that the numbers just are not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a small population, a small country, and enormous numbers, which would never be the case, and that relative scale would never happen in the UK or in other countries in Europe. I actually met a family yesterday. We weren't able to share pictures or share video, and I know that you met them as well. And this family 2 months ago got approval and got confirmation that they will be resettled in the UK. They were absolutely beaming with joy. They were so happy and so excited to kind of restart their lives. You know, there's a difference between resettlement and relocation. People are desperate to change their lives over here, and they will take enormous risks. The issue has to be tackled. Relocation is very dangerous, and it's not.
We just want to clarify what those two things are. So relocation is where people take it upon themselves to make it over to European countries, and those countries can decide whether or not they want to take them in. They will then need help from the UNHCR to do that. Resettlement is when governments can identify extraordinarily vulnerable people that together with the UNHCR they can identify and then resettle in their home countries. And we've seen different countries take on different numbers of people.
Canada has been very generous recently with Trudeau.
Well, it's Canada, Australia, the US, the UK, Germany, and Italy has taken some. We're just asking. We've got a few different people around here from the United Nations, as you can understand. We actually also are joined by Dana Sleiman from the UNHCR here in Lebanon. She's in a position to answer some of your questions about the kinds of requests. If Mohammed, we can link Dana up. The kinds of requests that the UNHCR is getting, and where all the different centres are based around Lebanon. Because, like I said, this isn't the only one. And Dana, we're just moving her around. As you can see, it's a little bit of a task here, because the UNHCR is responsible for trying to make sure people have social care, legal care, and a number of other things, but I'm not the expert here, Dana is, so we're just going to bring Dana in now. Thank you so much for joining us. So Dana, as I say, from the UNHCR here in Lebanon, we had a question earlier about where the different centres are. So where are they and what do they do?
So this is one of 4 centres. We have field offices that we've established over the years as refugees continue to arrive in Lebanon. We first started to establish a presence in North Lebanon because we had refugees arrive from Homs in Syria. We have another office in East Lebanon in the Beirut, where we have the highest concentration today of refugees, and we also have an office in the south in addition to this one. So this is where refugees come to register, to ask about their resettlement status, to get access to healthcare, ask questions, and just simply sometimes vent. Tell us about their stories.
Lives, right? Yeah. And but it's important also to say, particularly in a country like Lebanon, that not all refugees are Syrian, are they? The UNHCR has had a long history of dealing with refugees from all over the world.
That's true. We've been here since 1963. Just before the crisis, we were dealing with 10,000 Iraqi refugees, in addition to a number of other nationalities from North Africa and the Middle East. The thing is, we had a pretty considerably large operation, and then today we're talking about over 1 million Syrian refugees. I think nobody in Lebanon expected this large a number of refugees, neither the government here nor us as UNHCR. Back in 2011, our contingency plans were much smaller than the scale we're seeing today, so it's a pretty staggering development.
And there were already lots of refugees in Syria, weren't there? From Palestine, from Iraq.
That's right.
And these people have effectively been displaced 3 or 4 times in the last, 5-6 years?
That's true. In fact, in Lebanon we have over 50,000, approximately 50,000 Syrian refugees, Palestine refugees from Syria who have in fact been displaced over twice. So they're double refugees, if you wish.
Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank
Dana.
you.
We'll bring Mika back in right now. Dana Suleiman from the UNHCR, just some facts there around what refugees actually have to deal with. Like I said, you can keep on asking us questions. We've got people from Pakistan. Shoaib says hi from Pakistan. Anurat from Thailand. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got people tuning in from all around the world. Keep those questions coming in. Remember the hashtag #MyRefugeeStory, and have a look out for all our other stuff on Snapchat, on Twitter, on Instagram, and of course here on Facebook, where you'll see some of the digital videos we've been putting out, and on BBC World, where our piece is running all day today. Mika, you're back. What has been over the last couple of days, if you could pick out a couple of things that have hit you particularly, what do you think?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I think the one thing that, I just wanted to kind of retouch on something that a lot of people are commenting on, and something that I can completely understand, which is the strain that we already have on, for example, in the UK, I'm a Londoner, and the strain that there already is on the services that are provided in the UK. Yes, I agree, and it is something that concerns me as well. And that was part of my motivation as well for coming over here, just to kind of see this with my own eyes, because and understand the human side of it as well, politics aside, strain aside, budgets aside, and to see with my own eyes these people. I realised over the course of these past few days that there is no difference between me and that young man who used to have his garage body shop repair place in Syria and has just lost everything. There's no difference between me and one of those kids in that LGBTI youth group who have nothing and that have been forced to work on the streets and work in sex trade in order to just kind of get by. There's no difference between me and anyone, even any of those people working in that they're living in that chicken factory. I think the one thing, it's chaos, it's pure luck. It's just that I was born in different circumstances, and they were born in different circumstances. And I think that has just kind of brought the whole thing to another level for me.
I just want to read out a couple more of these comments quickly. So Tomoko says, how will Syria cope after everyone has left? That's a great point, Tomoko, because around half of Syrians have now been displaced, whether or not they've left the country or they've been displaced inside Syria. There's a long political transition, which in the last couple of weeks we've seen steps towards doing something about that. The solution here, of course, is politics, but that is not what the UNHCR is to do. They're here to try to help people who have been affected, no matter where they've come from or what they believe in.
But also, resettlement is not the one thing that UNHCR does. If you actually look at the numbers of resettlement, they are quite small. People leaving on their own illegally and crossing borders and taking those risks, those numbers are much, much bigger. UNHCR actually provides aid to refugees in the countries where they're being housed, and to kind of help in a humanitarian way as well. For example, here in Lebanon or in Turkey or in all the other places where they're helping refugees. And that aid is essential. That is the one thing that I want to communicate.
Well, it's the big reason you're here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because the UNHCR, together with other UN agencies, is 50% underfunded. 50% underfunded. Which means that actually they've had to revise down what they're able to do to help people. We had a question from Giacomo. Refugees have very limited choices to make. They should be helped more. Well, Giacomo, they could be helped more. But unfortunately, the target that the UNHCR and other UN agencies set to get help to these people has not been met, and donor countries all around the world have not. Some of them have, some of them haven't stepped up when it comes to the pledges they've made. It's people like Mika and other well-known people who come over to try to kind of get some more interest.
Interestingly,
right?
but it's most of the money for the UNHCR, most of the money that goes into the budgets has come from major donor countries. They've never been very strong in the private sector and individuals. Other associations within the UN have been much, much better at engaging with people and telling the stories of the people that they help in order to help raise money. And I think that now the UNHCR has hit a wall. They have an enormous deficit. They are not meeting their budgets, and when they don't meet their budgets, it's people that are in extremely tough circumstances that have no option but to seek aid that are left out. And so the UNHCR have to make more of an effort, more of that transition towards the private sector and towards individuals and having people sustain them. It might seem ridiculous that these small amounts of money within such an enormous pool, but together
it helps.
It really does help, and I think they have no choice but to go further in that direction now.
We are getting a lot of questions about people wanting to go back to Syria, and is there any hope of them going back? Because refugees on average spend a lot of time out of their country. I think am I right in saying 17 years? On average, a refugee is a refugee for 17 years. Now that's a lot, and if the situation in Syria continues to get worse and worse and worse, there is really little hope for a lot of these people to go home. But what I got to tell you guys, and I think Mika will say the same, is that most of the people we've met, they've said that they want to go home.
Exactly.
We met a family last night. I've got to tell you this. It really shocked me. We met a family last night who's going to be resettled to the UK. Now. They're a wonderful family. They've for various reasons we won't go into, they are vulnerable to the point that the UK has decided to resettle them in the UK. But they've had to make such difficult choices because the grandmother of this family won't be joining them. And she was there in the room when we met them yesterday, and she sat in the corner, and she said, no, I'm Syrian, I'm going back to Syria. And actually she was just visiting from Homs, if you can believe it, Homs, the home of the revolution. Which has now been almost totally destroyed, and she wants to go back. So there's that sense that a lot of people do still see Syria as a place that they want to return to. But you can see that divide even within a family, a grandmother returning and the rest of the family coming over to the UK. These are really difficult decisions for the families we've been meeting, aren't they?
The desire to go home is really, really, really strong, and it's everywhere. I mean, I would say approximately 8 out of 10 that we would meet expressed their strong desires to go back home to Syria, even if they had to face rebuilding the lives that had been destroyed. They wanted to do that because that's where they came from, that's where they want to go. And that's really important to understand.
Allah is asking, how long will this refugee crisis go on for? And Kalina asks, can Lebanon cope? It's a tiny country. Two huge issues. We don't know how long this crisis is going to go on for, but as long as there's a war going on in Syria between the various different parties, a lot of innocent people are having their lives turned upside down. And can Lebanon cope? It's a tiny country. Well, that's exactly it, isn't it?
My
refugee family, children behind us.
Well,
like
there
are just children
about what we're doing.
It's very curious. Yeah.
Can Lebanon cope? No.
That's a simple answer, isn't it?
No, they can't cope. They're barely coping. And can the UNHCR and the UN cope? in terms of giving the aid that is needed to stabilize. It is very important to keep this country stable, and that is very it's really on the brink right now in terms of dealing with the strain.
Got a message here from Rebecca Wright from the UK government. Says it would be families, and all I have seen is single men, no families in the UK. Rebecca, what happens is a lot of these young men make the journey not with the help of UNHCR. These are people who want to be relocated and they end up in Europe, but they decide to make the journey because it's too dangerous for their families to come, and they hope, against all hope, that their families can then join them when they arrive. That is the reason, as far as I can see.
Yeah, absolutely, and also because, I mean, well, like you said, they're perilous journeys. They take a huge amount of, it's a huge physical strain as well, and a huge financial strain because you have to pay the people that are organising this illegally as well. So it's normal, like the family that we met the other day, the man was contemplating leaving himself, the father, and his oldest son, and leaving the family behind. It's a risk that some families see as worth taking because they don't see any other options. Again, that goes back to the difference between that is relocation. That's a legal crossing, and then the relocation that can potentially happen after that, once these people get to Athens or wherever they get through Turkey. Versus resettlement, which is a very different process, that the UNHCR endorses in this part.
I'm just going to have another show and just give you a little bit of a demonstration about where we are now. We did it a little earlier, we're just going to do it again briefly. Unplugging Mika for 30 seconds and then he'll be back. So where we are now, as we've been saying, is a UNHCR reception centre. It is where people come to on their appointments, to follow up on appointments they've already made, because in January the Lebanese government said enough was enough. They couldn't take on any more refugees, so no new refugees can register, but the ones that are already here are able to come and, as Dana was telling us earlier, to retrieve the assistance that they need, whether that is social, whether that is medical, whether that is legal. And I'm just going to turn the camera around and you can see this is what they're like day in, day out. This centre, we told, receives around 800 people a day. At the height of this crisis, there were something like 1,200 people coming here every day. So you can see they've all come here for their appointments. And as we were saying earlier, it's the sheer number of children. That's the thing that really hits you when you come here. There actually is over there, and I don't want to go too far from our connection, there's actually a reception centre for children. So the UNHCR puts on a creche over here where the kids can be together while their parents are going through what are quite lengthy meetings and involving all sorts of paperwork, because being a refugee, as we said before, involves all sorts of documentation and registration. They even have to have optical scans before they can continue with their processes. Mika is over here meeting some children. He's been very popular. He's popular here in Lebanon because, of course, his mother is Lebanese. He's been here on the trip with us, and he's a well-known figure in this part of the world. We're just going to come down now to the table if Mika's going to join us, just for some final thoughts, really, on the trip and how it's been going. Just going to plug Mika back in. Thank you so much, by the way, everyone, for joining us. Your questions have been really pertinent and really interesting. It's been an extraordinary trip for the last couple of days, eye-opening for everyone. If you want to see more of what we've been doing, you can check out our Facebook page, the BBC Facebook page, but also my one, BBC James Longman, our Snapchat story, which we've been doing over the last few days, as well as on Instagram. You should also check out Mika's page on the UNHCR website, which is www.unhcr.org/Mika. You can find out all sorts of statistics on the refugee situation at data.unhcr.org, and there is country-by-country facts on what different countries are having to deal with when it comes to the refugee situation. But we're going to leave with one final thought from Mika on what really has been an extraordinary few days here in Lebanon.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the one thing that I'll take away from this is that there's not one type of refugee. There are all types of people from all walks of life. And the challenges are not just about resettlement, not just about leaving, but just the daily challenges of survival, paying rent, of food, and also dealing with the winter. I know that you're in a t-shirt now, and I'm quite quite warm right
That's
now
what
in
we
the
should say,
jumper.
actually. It's an extraordinary mild
country
December
as
so
well
far.
because
Yeah.
it's famous for sunshine and warmth down here by the sea. We're very close to the sea here, but you can just travel 1 hour up into the mountains and you'll be in snow. So and the challenge is that at different altitudes, that different refugees at different parts of the country have to deal with are really bad, and I think that winter as well is a huge challenge. Despite James Longman's t-shirt,
me and my t-shirt.
it is not summer.
It's not gonna. Last year was one of the worst winters this country saw, so it's very unstable.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that I really think that it's been an enormous privilege, and having this door and this access kind of being offered to me, and it was one that an opportunity that I'm not in politics. I'm not an academic. I'm not a journalist. If anything, I'm intimidated by most of the stuff that I've been reading and watching, like a lot of people, about this crisis. And I wanted to get away from the statistics. And when the opportunity was offered to me to open the door, I took it, and I'm truly, truly grateful for people at UNHCR and the generous people that we met that were able to share their stories with me. So, thank you.
Thanks, guys, and thanks so much for all your questions. All the best.